Last week, divisions in the Democratic Party came to a fever pitch when Chuck Schumer, despite promises to the contrary, announced he would be voting in favor of a Republican-backed stopgap spending measure in order to avert a government shutdown. This, despite a majority of the Democratic caucus coalescing around using the spending bill to gain leverage and finally do something to stand up to Trump. Many are calling for Chuck Schumer to step down as Senate Minority Leader, though that seems unlikely. Many others are calling on 𝗬𝗓𝗪𝗧𝗑𝗧 to run against him in the primaries when he runs for re-election in 2028. The backlash against Schumer is a microcosm of the divide in the Democratic Party. Old establishment Democrats versus progressives and, people who have ever used a smartphone before. And it's indicative of the larger messaging problem that Democrats seem hopelessly incapable of overcoming. Today, we'll talk about what the happened, why Democrats are so pissed, and what actually needs to happen for Democrats to win back the American people and actually grow a spine in the face of a tyrant hell-bent on ending our democracy. Let's get into it. Of course, every news pundit on the internet is writing think pieces about this Chuck Schumer controversy, but of course the way they write about him and his vote last week is heavily influenced by their biases. This article from the Seattle Times caught my eye with the headline, "Schumer will clear the way for GOP spending bill, breaking with his party," clearly communicating some drama afoot, so obviously I have to know more. Using the Ground News browser extension, it's helpful to see that this news source has a left-leaning bias. And I really love this Ground News extension because it provides context, and I can see how other sources are framing the story by clicking full coverage. On the Ground News website, you can see that there are 265 sources covering this topic. Among them, the left-leaning publication 𝗬𝗓𝗪𝗧𝗑𝗧𝗧 uses the headline, "Trump adds insult to injury by praising Chuck Schumer for supporting GOP spending bill. Really good and smart move." While the far-right Patriot Journal frames it as, "After Trump calls out Schumer, Democrat agrees to support GOP spending bill," gloatingly giving Trump the credit for Schumer's decision. Very different takes, and it's a clear example of how consuming news from only one perspective can limit your understanding of a situation. This is where Ground News comes in, and why I've been using them for over a year. Today's partner, Ground News, is an app and website that offers tools to help you critically analyze the news you read, providing context to understand the full picture. For example, I can see each publication's factuality rating, as well as the overall factuality ratings of publications discussing this story, so that I know which is more trustworthy. And I can see who owns which publication, and that the overall ownership skews more towards media conglomerates than independent news outlets. By using the Ground News Vantage subscription, I can also see the blind spot feed, where I can see stories disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum. I feel better equipped to make sense of what's happening in the world without being influenced by just one perspective. I'm always really impressed with Ground News and genuinely think that they're a great resource. If you want to stay informed on US politics and more, scan my QR code or click the link in the description, or go to ground.news/Leeja to get 40% off the same Vantage plan I use, which comes to about $5 a month. Ground News is subscriber funded, so they don't rely on ads that could introduce bias. Subscribing supports my channel and an independent team working to keep the media transparent. Thanks, Ground News. Okay, here's how we got here. Republicans in the House introduced a stopgap spending bill to avoid a government shutdown until the official congressional budget talks can happen. According to Mother Jones, quote, "The resolution, which cuts non-defense spending by $13 billion and increases defense spending by approximately $6 billion, includes, among other steep cuts, a 57% slashing of the Department of Defense's medical research programs, a 44% cut to Army Corps of Engineers projects, which build and maintain essential infrastructure, and more than $3 billion in cuts to the Department of Housing and Urban Development's Community Development, Rental Assistance, and Homelessness Services program. It also gives Trump and Elon free rein to decide how to use congressionally mandated money to keep doing what they're doing. For example, the bill gave the White House the right to determine whether and which Army Corps of Engineers construction projects are funded or not. And all but one Democrat in the House voted against it, knowing that it would lead to a shutdown and determining that it was worth the risk to use the leverage to push back on Trump's impoundment theory, where he thinks he doesn't have to spend money the way Congress tells him to. It was leverage. And after Democrats in the House put their necks on the line, Schumer, despite promising to vote against the bill, did an about-face and voted in favor. His reasoning, given after the fact, was that the bill was awful, but a government shutdown would be worse than signing this bill. Think pieces and talking heads have been opining for days about whether or not he's right. And while my inclination is to say there needs to be a spine in this Congress and we need to stand up to Trump no matter what, after reading through the various arguments, I'm not so sure that voting in favor of the spending bill was the wrong call. And I know, okay? Don't come for me, all right? Let me explain myself. The Democrats are the minority in both houses of Congress. They were never going to have much of a say over what was in this bill. Under a normal presidency, using the filibuster in the Senate to stop the passage of the bill, risking a government shutdown in the hopes that Republicans would compromise with them on some things to avoid a shutdown, because a shutdown under Republican leadership usually makes them look bad. Democrats could then point at Republicans and say, look at what they did to your government, isn't that bad? That would be a good way to exercise the limited leverage they do have. And I would love to see anyone with any backbone in Congress, especially in the Senate. However, this is not a typical presidency. And thinking through to the end result of a government shutdown under present circumstances gives me the heebie-jeebies. So the way it works is this. The government is funded through funding bills passed by Congress. They are laws that say the government will keep functioning and it will have this much money for each of its functions. Typically, that funding law is an appropriations bill that is passed annually, but if Congress doesn't approve spending for the full fiscal year, meaning they don't pass a new spending law, they have to pass a stopgap bill, also known as a continuing resolution or a CR, to continue funding for a shorter period of time until they pass a larger spending measure. The passage of that funding law is required for the government to function. If it is not passed, then the government lacks legal authority to spend money. So all governmental functions cease except for those deemed essential. And who gets to decide what's essential or not? Trump. And Congress, which is being run by MAGA diehards, would have to pass a measure eventually to reopen the government. And that law would have to be signed by Trump, despite the fact that a defunded government with greater authority for the president is exactly what Trump's been gunning for. So why would he sign that law? There's a very real potential that a government shutdown would never end under this current presidency. On the other side of the coin, many are furious at the apparent willingness of Schumer to simply lay down and let Trump get his way. Trump's already determining what should and should not be slashed through Doge. He's already burning down the government, and there are some who argue, like in an article today from the American Prospect, that approving the bill actually hurt all of the legal battles trying to rein in Trump's slash and burn policies, because instead of digging their heels in and saying, we do not approve of Trump's ability to impound congressionally mandated funds, we do not believe he should be able to make those decisions, Schumer, in voting to pass the bill, voted for a bill that explicitly gives Trump that power to determine how funds should be spent, no matter what Congress has said. And so now in court, his lawyers might be able to say, see, Congress actually approves of Trump's ability to make his own determinations about congressionally mandated funds. Instead of saying, well, a shutdown is worse, so I guess my hands are tied, Schumer should have used the leverage that the bill gave him, because it would ultimately make the Republicans look bad when the government is shut down, because they're the ones in charge of Congress and the White House, and this will be happening under their watch. It was leverage that Chuck Schumer threw away, according to these arguments, and now they won't have another chance to stand up to the Republicans on the budget until like September. On top of that, Schumer alone, despite the consensus of Democrats in the House and a large consensus in the Senate that voting in favor of the spending bill was bad, Schumer alone made the call, contrary to the majority of his caucus, that the spending bill should go through. He alone decided that he knew best and voted contrary to what the majority of Democratic lawmakers believed to be in the best interest of the American people. Now, no one has a crystal ball and can say for certain the levels of lawlessness Trump would stoop to in the face of a government shutdown, though he has followed through on all of our worst fears so far. The real issue here, and the reason we're seeing such backlash and the potential downfall of Chuck Schumer, is the fundamental and deeply toxic disconnect between the party establishment and its progressive wing, and between all of them and the American people. There was clearly a lack of communication within the party about what was going to happen with this vote, because many House Democrats were furious and shocked. Schumer did a bad job communicating with them and with the American people about why a shutdown would be worse. He is now on the defense with the American people because of his sloppy and outdated communication strategies, because he's incredibly unlikable, because he didn't do a good job communicating what he was doing to us, or even to his own party, effectively. And this lack of communication, even within the Democratic Party itself, comes at a time when the public is literally begging them to do anything. A united strategy on this vote in either direction would have at least shown a united Democratic Party, and proper communication would have told the American people why this specific vote is not the hill to die on. But here's the list of all the other things that we're doing, and here's our cohesive vision for the future. Instead, he goes on MSNBC and says, I'm a smart politician, I know what people want, while all evidence points to the contrary. It would have been really uncomfortable for the American people if the government shut down, but we're already uncomfortable. At least in that scenario, the Democrats would have the opportunity to mount a serious opposition, one willing to take risks and flout norms for the good of the country, but they would have needed to tell us and show us that that was what they were doing. And because they are incapable of that, it seems, I'm not convinced that standing up to Trump and causing a major, prolonged, potentially never-ending government shutdown would have worked, because they would have failed to effectively communicate to the electorate why it is the Republicans' fault and why the shutdown was worth it. The problem is that, once again, Democrats have a messaging problem, but not in the way they think they do. Schumer is insistent that the Democrats' messaging problem will be solved by having Cory Booker in charge of social media. The man relies on PowerPoints to tell lawmakers how many times per day to post to social media. That is not a cohesive strategy. I've talked about that already. And Schumer is also convinced that the way they win back the American people is by telling us how bad Trump is. That's it. That's the strategy. He's laid it out in multiple interviews over the last week. Just this morning, Wednesday, on MSNBC, Schumer said on Morning Joe, "Now we can really go after him, let the public know who he is. Once they know who he is, show them what we have done and want to do." We just need to double down on communicating to the American people that Trump is bad, and then we win back seats in 2026. It worked in 2017, it'll work again. But Chucky, my boy, it didn't work in 2017, because if it had, Trump would not have been reelected in 2024. Also, bitch, we know how bad he is. We have also been living, breathing, conscious humans for the last 8 years. We know. We see. Anyone who pays attention knows who he is. That is not the problem. You need to move on to the next step, which is communicating what the you plan to do about it. In an interview on The View yesterday, Schumer said confidently, "One of the things I am known to be very good at is how to win Senate seats. In other words, I'm a strategist in terms of recruiting candidates, helping the candidates run campaigns, and winning." Going on to say, "Look, winning in 2026 in the House and Senate, which would stop Trump once and for all, is vitally important." This short-sighted thinking that the next primary is definitely the thing that'll stop Trump once and for all is the way we got into this mess in the first place. Republicans have been playing the long game that led to Trump since at least the 1970s. 50 years of strategy playing towards a long game of complete conservative control. Decisions made day to day cannot solely be with an eye to the 2026 midterm elections. You have to convince the people that you give a about them or what they have to say. Instead, he sits on his high horse saying, "I'm a smart politician. I think I understand people. They just don't understand that it would have been worse if there was a shutdown." Representative Jasmine Crockett said it well on CNN recently, saying, quote, "The idea that Chuck Schumer is the only one that's got a brain in the room and the only one that can think through all the pros and cons is absolutely ridiculous." And it is that kind of condescending talking down that Schumer and other establishment Democrats who haven't left Washington, D.C. in decades use that makes the American people bristle at the Democratic Party, whose approval ratings are hitting record lows even amongst longtime Democratic voters. And the fact that Schumer is getting so much pushback and just doubling down indicates his conceited, self-important, overconfident belief that he alone understands what's right for the American people. The problem is that we are all screaming from the rooftops that what he's doing is wrong, and he doesn't get to turn around and say, "Sit down, honey, I know what's best," and expect all of us to complacently say, "Well, daddy knows best. I guess everything's going to be okay." And it's this complete lack of accountability and complete incapability of talking like a normal fucking person and speaking to the American people like an equal, like a member of a team that is united in a common goal, that has alienated a large chunk of the American people from the Democratic Party. As frustrating as it is that anti-elitism has led to the spread of disinformation, science deniers, a complete disregard for truth or research or experience or knowledge in a way that's incredibly detrimental to society, and much of that Trump and his ilk are to blame for, Democrats are the ones who leaned into the intellectualism and who did the alienating by treating the American people as less than, by stereotyping Republicans as uneducated hillbillies, by leaning into wonky politician speak and relying on convincing the people to vote for them because of some fact or figure, and not thinking about the way people actually make political decisions, which is driven far more by emotion and vibes than practical policy choices. And the vibes have been off for Democrats for years. And while rank and file members of the Democratic Party are taking hard looks and trying new tactics, the leadership is stuck in the past when it comes to politicking. You cannot run a campaign the same way you ran one in 2005. You cannot communicate to the American people with the same strategies you used before social media existed. Chuck Schumer proudly uses a flip phone, for Christ's sake. He represents an old guard Democratic establishment politician that no longer resonates with the vast majority of the American electorate. That's obvious from the polls, and it's obvious from this backlash. And don't take my word for it. A recent NBC News poll found that not only are positive views views of the Democratic Party the lowest they've ever been. Also, Democratic voters say 2-to-1 they want party leaders to fight rather than compromise, even at the risk of not getting things done. We are explicitly saying things are bad. The very least you could do is stand up for us. We are willing to put up with the bad if we see you actually fighting. It's going to be bad either way. At least in that scenario, the bad might be worth something in the end, and we'll feel like our representatives actually represent us, are actually listening to us, and are willing to stand up against Trump no matter what. And instead of accountability or a reckoning, Chuck Schumer doubles down and says, no, I know what's best. And that's infuriating, and it's hurting the Democratic Party, a party that even before this had alienated most of its base. Schumer, as its leader, is helping nothing. And while many news outlets are touting this as an age issue, it's more an issue of who's willing to be humble, take accountability, listen to the American people, change course, try new things, and actually speak to the issues that people care about and that are impacting all of us. Now, I know he's the example that we always go back to, but Bernie Sanders is 83 years old. He was born in 1941. I have never seen him use a smartphone, and I have no idea what his tech capabilities are, but he's willing to surround himself with people who do understand tech and can get his message out there. He does YouTube live streams. I guarantee you that man doesn't understand the first thing about how to set up a YouTube live stream, but he does them. He has organized an incredibly popular and successful national tour in which he's just talking to people about money and politics, and he's drawing crowds of thousands to see this decrepit 83-year-old curmudgeonly New Yorker scream about rich people. That's what the people want. The message has to be something other than Trump is bad and we're your only other choice. The Democrats used to be the party of hope. Obama did not turn out to be the progressive president some of us had hoped for, but the vibe was right. He did instill hope. You can criticize him, but you can't deny that. He beat his opponents not by saying, look how bad they are, I'm the better option. He beat them by being an incredibly engaging speaker who effectively communicated hopeful ideas clearly and sold the American people on his vision for the future. Chuck Schumer is unlikable, condescending, unwilling to try new things because he thinks he already knows how it's done, and relies on using Trump to scare people into voting instead of unifying his party behind a shared vision that actually speaks to the concerns of the American people. And he's almost 10 years younger than Bernie Sanders. I think Chuck Schumer represents not only the schism that divides the Democratic Party today, but also is kind of the age-old division in left-leaning politics, something that's led to Trump's current power, something that led to the rise of Hitler, something that has dashed the hopes of progressives the world over since the rise of popular democracy in the 18th and 19th centuries. And I think it's important that we very clearly acknowledge that this is happening and call it out for what it is. Since the dawn of representative democracy, wherein the unwashed masses were granted the right to vote as opposed to having politics be relegated only to the aristocracy or oligarchs, those who represent the establishment, even on the left, that is, people who espouse more socially permissive views on things like women's lib and gay marriage, and people who support the idea that not everything should be privatized and the government should step in and regulate things and provide at least something for its citizens, those who hold those views, but also hold a lot of wealth and power, will side with the conservatives, the oligarchs, and the establishment every single time in the face of the threat of popular progressive ideas. They would rather side with a tyrant than allow the people to rise up and share their power and their wealth. You can set your watch by it. That is why, despite their incredibly widespread popularity within the party, Bernie Sanders, who I know is an independent but operates within Democratic Party spheres, so I'm lumping him in here, and AOC are not being given a microphone and a spotlight to the extent that they should be, even though it would likely be in the best interest of the party to listen to the people and provide us with leaders who we actually find inspiring. They would rather self-immolate than give actual power to the people. We saw it in Germany in World War II as Hitler gained power, and those left of center, but who also had money and power, not only oligarchs but elected officials as well, capitulated to him, propped him up, even gave him their money, supported his initiatives because a popular progressive movement was also growing, and they were willing to do anything to stop it. And we're seeing the same thing happening in the Democratic Party now. Chuck Schumer is willing to capitulate to the Republicans by approving their bills by saying, well, I know how it's done, and it would be even worse if you didn't have me guiding you, stupid little idiots. And anyone who wants to have any future within the Democratic establishment has to toe the line. That's why you see Hakeem Jeffries initially being unwilling to voice support for Chuck Schumer, and then he does an about face and says, well, I still stand behind him. That's why you see Senator Chris Murphy, a rising star in the Democratic Party, in large part because he's not afraid to use innovative ways to communicate with the American people, saying, well, I'm not sure about the spending bill, but I still stand behind Chuck Schumer. Or Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, long considered to have presidential ambitions, who said he disagreed with Schumer, but that he should still definitely be the Democratic leader in the Senate. People unwilling to break rank for what's right because they're too afraid of what that means for their own political future. And their line is, we make people feel good and fuzzy because we say love is love and everyone is welcome here, but let's not get carried away and give people economic power. Because that's what this is about, ultimately. James Carville has been making the rounds lately, but he was right in 1992 when he said, it's the economy, stupid. It's always the economy. Not only is it always the economy when you ask what the American voter cares most about, it's also the economy when you ask what the American politician is most motivated by. Economics, because money is power, and whoever has the most of it gets to call the shots. And by spreading it out among the American people through progressive policies like guaranteed basic income, for example, you're diluting the power of those at the top. And our elected officials are often the ones with a ton of the cash and are also beholden to others with tons of cash to get elected. Every wedge issue, everything that divides us, every right we fight for and win or lose is all a distraction from the true carrot and stick, which is and always has been money. Who has it, and how do we keep it from the people? And Chuck Schumer is an example of the very entrenched politician who is unwilling to create any long-term strategy, take any risk, or actually sit down and speak candidly with the electorate and push for the type of equality we all want. Economic equality, because that threatens his power, the power of the elite democratic institution, and the power of his moneyed benefactors that get to call the shots on whether or not he's reelected. And so while Bernie Sanders is orchestrating a nationwide tour where the theme is just oligarchs are bad, and he's drawing crowds of literal thousands, Schumer and Jeffries are trying to show a united Democratic front by holding a Medicaid day of action to continue harping on how bad Trump is, to very little interest or fanfare from the American people. And yet they remain convinced that their strategy will work. So in the end, I really don't think it's as black and white as the media is making it out to be, that Schumer just capitulated to Trump on this bill and that the Democrats should have stood against it, and a government shutdown is better than a vote in favor of the Republican stopgap spending bill. A government shutdown could have been the end of the functioning of our government for the foreseeable future. It is reasonable to have looked at the situation and decided that the stopgap bill was the lesser of two evils. But I do think that this incident is enough evidence to show what we've all known for a while, and that is that the Democratic leadership is inept for our current political reality, not because they don't know how to do government, but because they don't know how to sell what they're doing to the American people. They instill zero confidence in their ability to meet the current political moment with the creativity, energy, messaging, or strategy necessary when all of us can see and feel that democracy is literally on the line. And that is bad for the party and very good for Trump and MAGA because it continues the leftist infighting and it prevents the formation of a cohesive plan. And so do I think Chuck Schumer made the wrong call? I don't know. But I do know he needs to step down as Democratic minority leader because he has proven time and again that he is not the person capable of meeting this moment in history. Instead, the Democratic Party, which we are unfortunately stuck with on the left with our two-party system, needs to grow a fucking spine and put forth bold leaders like AOC and others who are capable of speaking to the American people, who champion truly progressive policies that would actually benefit the working class voters Chuck Schumer claims to care so much about, and who might be able to create the energy and vision needed in this very specific time in history. Okay, so what do we do about this? I don't always have an answer for you, especially in these trying times when we don't have a lot of say. But this article from Axios last month gave me some unexpected hope. It's titled, "Dems Pissed at Liberal Groups Move on Indivisible." Why are they pissed? Because these groups are encouraging all of us to call them more and push them to act. And the Democrats are like, but we're in the minority. Just call the Republicans. We can't do anything. Even though Indivisible and others have put forth clear, easy to follow guidelines for the procedural hurdles that Democrats could put up to stall things on the floor. I've talked about them in the past. Things that these Democrats know they could be doing, but refuse to, claiming that being in the minority means they just can't do anything. No one is expecting them to actually pass bills. We're not playing offense here. Pardon the football analogy, but even I know that when you're playing defense, you still need a strategy. You probably won't score a touchdown, but you can prevent the other team from scoring one for themselves. That's like the team playing defense deciding, well, we can't score a touchdown, so we might as well just take a nap on the field while the other team fucking tramples us. It makes no logical sense, and no one is buying their whining that we need to stop bugging them because there's nothing they can do. And so I say, keep calling them, keep bugging them. Clearly they're hearing and seeing it. Clearly it's getting under their skin. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Now is the time to be annoying as for your elected officials. They think we're stupid. They think we don't get it. They have an us versus them mentality that has gotten us all here in the first place. Don't let them forget that they work for us. We pay their bills. We decide whether they stay in office or get primaried into oblivion. If you don't know where to start, I'd go to the source that's making them most frustrated, somewhere like Indivisible, a group pushing for Democrats to do anything or face primaries. Reporting indicates that Chuck Schumer's people have been in direct talks with Indivisible leaders, begging them to stop calling for him to step down as leader. They have his ear, because the only thing these people seem to care about is their own political careers. So threatening that is the only way to gain leverage. Keep calling. It's the phone calls that seem to be the most troubling to them. Now is not the time to let up. The downfall of Chuck Schumer is the perfect time to contact your representatives, if they're Democrats especially, and tell them over and over again that Chucky is not the answer. He does not represent the Democratic voters. He needs to go, and they need to find a leader capable of effectively communicating with the American people who's willing to actually fight, put their necks on the line, and stand up to Trump. And knowledge is also power, which is why I launched the Why America Co-Learning Lab, a learning community having discussions and making connections along with a monthly syllabus curated by me. All year, we're covering topics under the umbrella of Eat the Rich, building solidarity in the new Gilded Age. This month's topic is all about how billionaires bought the government. This is all hosted over on Patreon, which is linked below, www.patreon.com/LeejaMiller. Please join us if you can. Thank you to my multi-platinum patrons, Mark, Thomas Orff, Sarah Shelby, Art, David, R.H., Latranger Lucas, Joshua Cole, Thomas Johnson, and Tay. Your generosity makes this channel what it is, so thank you. If you like this video, you'll like the one from Monday where I talk all about how Trump is now defying judicial orders, and that's really scary. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye!